Aside from emotional interference, ADHD, and brain-based factors, someone's slow processing speed might also be due to someone's mental health issues. But how? Let's find out. But before we take a look at mental health issues in relation to slow processing speed, let's start by taking a look at how visual processing disorders can cause slow processing speed. Visual processing disorders like dyslexia or dyscalculia and auditory processing disorders often cause delays in someone's processing speed. If someone has a visual or auditory processing disorder, the way they see and hear things isn't affected, but their brains have difficulty interpreting the information. Anyone with these disorders want to overcome the obstacles, but overcoming them involves a lot of hard work, and when it comes to learning, people with auditory or visual processing disorders need to take extra steps, which obviously affect the speed at which they process information. Let's move on to mental illnesses in relation to slow processing speed, and let's start with schizophrenia, because slower processing speed has been seen in cases of schizophrenia. A study which looked at processing speed and the working memory of patients diagnosed with schizophrenia concluded that, specifically, processing speed is consistently shown to be a disproportionate deficit in schizophrenia against a backdrop of a generalized cognitive deficit. As such, it's been hypothesized that processing speed might influence a broader array of cognitive impairments in schizophrenia. What about borderline personality disorder? Patients diagnosed with borderline personality disorder and bipolar disorder have also exhibited some deficits in overall cognitive ability, including information processing speed. But there is a very high degree of variability in the type and severity of cognitive impairment. So as I see it, some people with borderline personality disorder may have very little cognitive impairment and one certain type of it, whereas someone else with borderline personality disorder may have a different type and more severe cognitive impairment. What about mood disorders and processing speed? Having a mood disorder can cause someone's processing speed to slow down. People with anxiety often experience brain fog and slower reactions, and people who suffer from chronic anxiety might find that their ability to process information quickly is impaired due to a constant state of arousal. When the brain is in a panicked and alert state, as is the case with chronic anxiety, it's essentially frozen in fear and stops processing information. So mood disorders such as anxiety disorders and depression often go hand in hand with information processing speed. Although information processing speed isn't related to intelligence, the disruptions and difficulties slow information processing causes to thinking and learning can be frustrating and make it difficult to develop perseverance. It can also cause low self-esteem and a poor self-image in both children and adults. What's more, as children get older and issues due to slow processing speed become more apparent, it can lead to negative feelings about learning and their ability to learn. Combined, all of these issues related to slow processing speed can worsen certain mental health problems, particularly mood disorders. Let's take a moment to zoom in on depression and slow processing speed. Sometimes, when we're really stressed, our thoughts seem to race. The opposite of this, slow thinking, can happen when a person is depressed. You might notice that when you talk to a person who's depressed, that they exhibit slow speech or difficulty understanding and registering information. It often feels to the person who's depressed as if it's very difficult to think and it takes more than the usual effort to do so. We call some of the slow thinking processes in depression executive thinking skills. Executive thinking skills are the skills we need when we plan stuff, organize things, and solve problems. Executive thinking skills are more complicated forms of thought than others because they require us to act on a set of information. For example, even if we know how to drive a car, driving to a friend's house is an executive thinking task because it involves planning when to go, ensuring the car has enough gas, mapping a route, and changing that route if problems like road construction arise. If we have depression, we may have slower executive thinking processing speed. That makes it more difficult for us to come up with a plan as to how to cook a meal, drive to a location, or hire an accountant, and our thinking is also slowed if we have to find an alternative if our plan is blocked. Finally, it's intriguing to know that pronounced deficits in executive thinking are present in approximately 20 to 30% of people with major depressive disorder. What does research on depression and slow thinking say? Studies show that people with depression think more slowly than others. For example, in a task where participants were asked to count backward from 100 by 7, so 100, 93, 86, etc., people with depression were slower in doing so and made more mistakes. Studies have also noted that people with depression have more slowed thinking when dealing with negative emotional stimuli. So in depression, slowed thoughts and an impaired ability to think are two prevalent symptoms which are directly related to processing speed. A study from 2008 ultimately found that the main difference between depressed adolescents and those without depression in terms of academic performance was due to processing speed, not in the individual's ability to do tasks like spell and read. This information came from these websites. As always, you'll find these links below this video. You saw my new mask up there. Her name is... no. There. You saw my new mask up there. Her name is Mickey. She is a Labradoodle, and we've had her since June this year. If you found this video interesting, please give it a thumbs up and leave a comment in the comment section below. Subscribe to my channel and watch this series from the start. In 4 weeks, I'll be back with a new video in this series on intellectual giftedness. Till then, I only want to say 3 things. Thank you for watching. Take care and bye for now.